Hello, it's Mr. Egg here on a sunny walking street. Actually, it's a bit too hot. I think I'll walk in the shade. A few weeks ago, I made a video called Bar for Sale, and it was about investing in a business, a bar business here in Pattaya. And it was a very successful video. But there were a lot of comments that says, "Are you mad? That is the worst investment advice." And I have to say, buying a bar in Pattaya is a gamble. I've been quite successful until this all happened. And even now, my bar's open and I'm breaking even. But many people have invested in bars and it's all gone horribly wrong. And it's got me thinking about one particular story that I want to tell you about today. And it's about a guy called Sven. And if Sven was a chef, his idea of buying a bar was a recipe for disaster. Now, I have to start off by making a confession. Sven isn't his real name. In the best traditions of this channel, I've changed a few of the names and filled in a little bit of the information, but the base of the story I'm going to tell you today is absolutely 100% true. And it all actually starts here in Pattaya, probably at a go-go bar. Sven was an engineer from Sweden. He worked very hard. He came to Pattaya, went to a few beer bars, went to a few go-go's, and he met his life partner, a young lady, and he fell in love. And he had to work very hard because he got married, and they decided that they weren't going to live here in Pattaya. It was a sleazy, horrible city. They were going to live in the romantic and picturesque holiday island of Phuket. So Sven got married. They bought a house. Well, I say they. He bought a house and put it in her name. What's that I can hear? Alarm bells ringing? Sven was spending all of his holidays in Phuket, in his house with his wife. And things were going really great. Sven actually put together a big pot of cash, and he decided to take early retirement from his engineering job in Sweden and went to live permanently in Phuket. Things started to go wrong pretty quickly. He noticed that his wife wasn't the same when he was actually living there to when he was visiting her on holiday. And look, let's just cut to the chase. The marriage failed, and his wife knew a few high-ranking policemen on the island, and Sven decided to pack all his belongings and move out of Phuket. He just walked away from the house, which she kept. So he came to Pattaya and he decided to go and see a friend who he thought he could confide in him. And his friend's name was a Thai bar owner, a gentleman that we'll call Dek. Dek was a friend that he'd made in Pattaya before he got married. Well, he was a guy that owned a bar, and he owned it on the hustling and bustling walking street. Okay, I know it's not hustling and bustling at the moment, but it will be, I guarantee it. And Dek's bar was what we call a 2-unit bar. So a 1-unit bar is, you know, when you go to these small little go-go bars and it's quite thin and long, that's a 1-unit bar. Well, this was a 2-unit beer bar. It was a big bar. And it had some very nice seats at the front, a couple of pool tables in there. And Dek had been in the bar business for decades. The problem was that his bar wasn't doing very well. Now, this is the part of the video that I can absolutely talk about from first hand, because I used to have people come into my bar, the pub, and talk to me about this bar. And they used to say, you know, I went to this bar and it was pretty late. I got drunk. There's lots of girls, and they kept on putting chits into my bin tab. And when I came to pay the bill at the end, the bill was massive, and there was lots of drinks that I hadn't paid for. Yes, it's called bill padding, and that used to go on all the time at his bar. I can only assume, because several customers of mine came into my bar and said exactly the same thing about the bar that this person that we're calling Dek used to own. But that was unbeknown to Sven. He saw Dek as his friend, and they started talking. Now, one of the good things was there were some rooms above the bar that were actually a complete disaster area. There was stuff lying around. They were not nice. They were not done out at all. But Dek says to him on the first day they met, why don't you get all your stuff from Phuket and put it, and you can live upstairs for a while just to help you out, like, you know, because you're a friend. Sven was really pleased about that. He thought, you know, that was a positive thing. Of course, he was spending thousands of baht every night in Dek's bar, but he didn't think about that. He'd just gone through a really, really painful split up and had to walk away from the house in Phuket. So he was feeling that a friendly person was helping him out. Then, one night, Sven and Dek had a lot of drinks and they came up with a really good idea. Sven had been going to a few European-style naughty nightlife venues in Europe, and he'd seen the way that they operated. He could see they were making a lot of money. And during his discussion this evening with Dek, he decided that the way that every bar in Pattaya operates was completely wrong, and that he had a format for a bar that he wanted to try, and he wanted to try and set up a bar. He was now retired, and like I said, he got this pot of money, and he wanted to try this new sort of bar format. Dek heard the magic words, investment and money. And he says, well, look, I'll be honest with you, Sven, my bar's not doing that well. How about I make you my 50% shareholder, and we do this idea of yours together in this bar. It's a big enough bar. It's on Walking Street. We can do it. Well, that's where it all started to go wrong. You see, unbeknown to Sven, Dek hadn't been entirely truthful. In fact, his bar was doing really, really badly. And worse than that, there'd been a changeover of landlords, and he hadn't paid his new landlord any rent whatsoever for the few months that he'd been owning the building. So he was in debt. His bar was doing badly. Customers were fed up of getting ripped off. But Sven had this idea, and he transferred some money to Dek so he could become a 50% shareholder. Dek told him that the money that he transferred some of it would go to pay off the rent that he hadn't paid, basically the money that he owed. And he set about setting up this new concept of the bar. So construction started on the bar. Now, one of the things about the bar that he had, Dek's bar, was that there were seats at the front of the bar where people could sit and people watch. And in fact, going past that bar virtually every day, I noticed that those were the only seats that ever used to be occupied. And if you look at this bar now, I know it's empty and it's not open. But look at the seats. A lot of the seats are on the outside. That was a good idea. People like to watch other people. But Sven's idea did away with all the seating near to the street. In fact, he made some walls and some pretty ugly windows there. So that got away. That did away, if you like, with the one thing that was really popular about the bar. Another thing was, as I said before, it was a big 2-unit bar. But Sven's idea, and I don't want to go too much into the detail, but it basically had 2 formats within the one building. And the one part of the bar would be open during the daytime and then into the evening, and then real late evening, everyone would move from that part of the bar to another part of the bar, which was a totally separate place. So this big, open, wide, inviting bar was split into two, and Sven's builders got to work in bricking up half of the bar and turning it into two units. Well, I mean, it was a strange idea, but it got even worse, because when the bar was completed, the licensing people came around, and Deck's bar had one license. Well, they took a look at this new bar and says, well, hold on a minute, this isn't one bar anymore, this is two. And you've kind of changed the floor plan of your original bar so much that you've got to start again. So you've got to get a new license with a new name, one license for this bar, one license for the other part of the bar. So that was going to cost him about 120, 150,000 baht. Well, I wasn't very happy. That was money that he didn't bank on having to spend. So as quickly as Sven's builders had built the separating wall, he got some sledgehammers and started to knock it down, and he had a bit of a rethink. The big day came for the grand opening, and Sven and Deck reopened their bar with the new format, and almost instantly, nobody liked it. The seats at the front were gone. The inside was a very, very strange concept, and it didn't really work. And not only did the customers not like it, but the staff that they hired didn't like it either. In fact, most of the staff didn't even last one day. The staff would come, see the format of the bar. It wasn't like a regular format of a Pattaya beer bar, and they decided to leave. So he had staffing problems and he had no customers. And pretty quickly, it became apparent that this was not going to work. It was only a week after the big relaunch of the bar. The few customers that Deck had got before had now left and not coming, and basically Sven was left in an empty bar every night, and he started to drink very, very heavily. In his drunken state, he was going to other bars and talking to other bar owners and saying, my bar's going to be a success, I'm going to do a little tweak here, a little tweak there, and it's going to be a big success. But all the bar owners knew that he was on a hide into nothing. One day, Sven came to the bar, ready to open, looking around for Deck, and he was nowhere to be seen. He tried calling Deck's number, but there was no response. And not only did Deck not show up that day, but his two family members, who were the cashiers in the bar, never showed up either. Or the next day, or the next day, or the next day. And it was quite clear that Deck had done a runner. It was at this point that Sven became a little bit concerned. He had 50% in this bar, but his main partner, who had all the money, had cleared off. He decided to make some inquiries. He tried to find a copy of the lease of the building. He'd bought a business, and he hadn't even looked to find out who was on the lease, and he'd never even met the landlord of the building where his expensive business was based. So he started asking around a few of his bar owner friends who the landlord was of his business. One managed to put him in touch with him, and they had a conversation the next day. The conversation took place at the office of the lawyer that the landlord had. There they revealed the lease, and Sven asked how much it would be to transfer the lease from Deck's name into his name, and he was told that there was quite a hefty amount of money in the contract that Deck had signed to be able to do that, and also he actually needed Deck to sign off the lease totally. That wasn't going to happen because Deck had done a runner. So unfortunately, they had to get a new lease, and that was going to cost even more money. But at least he had the new lease and the peace of mind that he was the owner of the business and he could move on. There was just one fly in the ointment. Deck hadn't paid any of the rent. The money that Sven had given Deck to pay off the debt in the bar, Dec had just trousered and been quite happy to let Dec spend all the money refurbishing the bar. And then when it didn't work out, Dec had just got his stuff and gone. Well, after he walked out of the solicitor's office, Sven got a BART bus. He got the BART bus, parked it outside the bar, went inside with a couple of his friends, got all of his own personal possessions out of the bar, sped off, and has never been seen again. So what's the moral of this story? Well, Sven was ill prepared. He just jumped into the business without really doing any due diligence. I always say a business, now it can be a business here in Pattaya, in the UK, in America, wherever, it always begins and ends with lawyers. So make sure that you've got a good lawyer. If Sven had a lawyer, he would have checked out the lease to make sure that it was being paid, and also who actually owned it, and he would have had a meeting with the landlord. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. The reason that bars in Pattaya have a certain format is because they work. Thai people are used to them, Western people are used to them. So don't try and reinvent the wheel. Or alternatively, I can say this, when you come up with a new format, you'll usually find that it either goes flat on its face, or if it is successful, someone with more experience, with more knowledge will see your idea, copy it, and do it really, really well. So you'll be left out in the cold. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. I hope it wasn't too negative. I always like to be positive about my videos. I hope you enjoyed the little montages that we did in and around Walking Street, the canal, and stuff like that. I hope it was a little bit different for you, and I hope it brings back a few happy memories. We're really looking forward to welcoming you back. Don't be scared of trying a business if you really, really want to do it here in Thailand, but take advice from people. I have got a set of videos. I've called it a box set. It's in my members area. It's all about buying a bar, owning a bar here in Pattaya, but it can be in Bangkok or Hua Hin or Phuket or anywhere else. Don't make the mistakes that Sven made. Thanks for watching. If you did enjoy it, there are lots more videos that I've got about Thailand and Pattaya in the channel. Take a look at some of the playlists, and I hope you enjoy it. But from now, from me, Mr. Egg, we're on Soy Diamond. I'll see you soon. Take care and bye-bye.